like to give you an update on 1207. For the last couple of weeks, I have been talking with Mel Watt, the chairman of the Monetary Policy Subcommittee, in dealing with 1207. And it seemed like they were reasonable discussions, but I never expected a whole lot to come from this. I've never expected as much support from Mel Watt as I believe I can and hopefully still get from Barney Frank. But the way the process works is a subcommittee does get first crack at it. What happens in the full committee is a different story, and we don't know exactly what will happen. But there's no doubt that Mel Watt is not interested in 1207. And I don't think he's all that bashful about speaking for the Federal Reserve, because that was in the conversation quite frequently, that he was trying to satisfy all parties, including the Fed. But that shouldn't surprise any of us. They are very, very powerful and very, very influential. But when he took 1207 and marked it up and sent it back to me, obviously it was something I could not support. Although there were two items in it that were rather minor that both he and I have agreed to, but it's not as significant as it should be. The one part, though, was having a time frame on when we could look at certain procedures of the Federal Reserve, and that was accepted. But the fact that they took away the audit itself, those numbers don't mean a whole lot except in one area, and that's dealing with the 13.3 lending facilities that the Federal Reserve has more or less conceded that they're going to have to reveal what has happened there. But that is minor. Matter of fact, 1207 doesn't even mention 13.3. We're mainly talking about an overall audit of overall policy, of monetary policy and arrangements overseas. So that, ironically, actually helps the Fed, putting a time limit. I believe they more or less has conceded that we would get to know what's happening with their lending facilities. But with the time lag on there of 6 months, it actually helps them. So what happens so often in legislation is you start out with one goal and you end up making things actually worse. And that's what they're trying to do. This would actually help the Fed under current circumstances. So my job and our job is to stick to what we want, and that is a true audit. Now, it is likely to come up soon. Next week, we're supposed to start working on the overall reform package for all the financial institutions. And because Mel Watt is the subcommittee chairman, he gets to insert his provision in there on what we're going to do with the Fed. Now, when he does that, I will have the opportunity to replace it and amend what he's done with 1207, and obviously I will be doing that. Now, it looks like we have the upper hand, at least on the surface we do. From the Banking Committee, we have all of the Republican members who have co-sponsored the bill, but we have 13 Democrats. So we have a good solid majority in the committee that should support us. But that's not always the way things work. Sometimes people support legislation for political reasons back home, and at the same time, when they have to vote on it, they vote differently when their arms get twisted. I believe it's going to boil down to how strong a position Barney Frank takes on this. And I plan to talk to him. I'm still talking with him, and we have cordial relations. And I'm sure he's going to have to take a position one way or the other. So I don't think he's as strongly opposed to what I'm doing as Mel Watt is. So the amendment will come up. So if people can influence their congressman, and you can figure out which 13 are already co-sponsors, they have to be urged. I only urge courtesy and not threats or anything like that the end of the world is going to come if they don't do what you tell them to do. I still think we have to work through this the best we can diplomatically. Like I said, I'm not surprised this has happened, but let's say we are successful and we get it amended. We still have to bring it to the House floor, and then they have a chance to water it down again. It goes through Rules Committee. That's another place. Has to go to the Senate. It's having a harder time in the Senate. Then it has to go to a conference committee, and there's another problem. And then it has to go to the president. And even if it goes through all that, we still have the courts to deal with, and courts have never been friendly to those of us who want honest money. They were never friendly to the people who held gold clause contracts and believed the government shouldn't renege on their promises. But nevertheless, this is crucial. This is really important. This whole thing might take a year or two to play out, but it might only take a year for the dollar to play out. So this is why it's so crucial. If the dollar doesn't last very long and something has to come up to replace the dollar or have a new system, we have to be in that debate, and that means we have to pursue this. So it is crucial. Instead of becoming a little bit discouraged with this or think that this is very strange, this is really rather typical. The special interest comes in at the last minute, and this time it's the special interest banks and the big corporations who love to have inflationary programs that finances the military-industrial complex, and they will have to come to a decision on what they're going to do. So I would say that the process is working as more or less the way I expected. This is going to be a very important week, but the whole issue of sound money and limited government and liberty and the Constitution, actually, that concern is not going to go away no matter what happens in the next couple weeks or so. But we will gain a lot of momentum if we can at least restore the language of 1207 in the banking reform bill, which will be in the House committee next week.